one of the medics on the way home.
All right,
I don't know what happened.
we're gonna get started.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I'd like to hear more about this story, but I have to go through a lot in this morning. All right, cool. So we've made it. It is the last week of class, last week of instruction for a large number of you. I think after this Thursday, we'll be saying, we'll be saying "see you later" to Leanna and Kimberly and Sharif and Sarah and Michael. So basically, everyone who's remote, we're going to say "see you later" after the 29th of this week. Hopefully, this experience has been like good for you all, and you've learned something. Hopefully. But we got a lot of stuff going on this week. I just want to kind of get an idea of what's going on for us all. So today we're going to have a Beyond Tech on job and salary negotiations. So, with some of our folks already getting job offers and things like that, it's like, how do I read through because you don't get to argue your salary when you're in the military. You don't get to argue your position or your job responsibilities, or like you don't know how to read through like 401ks and all that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of talk about all of that stuff today. So today's fairly light, but I got to go through React and go through Beyond Tech before noon. Tomorrow's wide open. Wednesday and Thursday we start picking things up a little bit. So we're starting at 10 a.m. I might push this to 10:30 on Wednesday. And then we have somebody coming in to present on DevOps. This is a person who works for ThoughtWorks. He's currently in London. So ThoughtWorks is that traveling consultancy. They get to go around the world, and he's going to be talking about how to deploy a Rails app from, like, instead of using Heroku just to push it up, we're going to be using AWS. So he's going to have a 1 hour session, maybe an hour and a half session on that. But yeah, he's going to be calling in remotely from London, so it'll be pretty interesting. And then we're going to have Granger, which is one of our sponsor companies for the internship, coming on Tuesday from 2 to 3 o'clock. I think their VP of engineering or somebody high up there is going to be coming in to talk about basically what Granger is, what they do, positions they offer, things that they're supposed to be, things that interns are supposed to do, et cetera, et cetera. And then that night at 6 p.m., we'll take an Uber on Code Platoon. We're going to go up to 600 West Chicago for the React meetup. This should be, I don't know, at least 50 to 75 people there. I'm fairly certain it'll be a larger group. On the 29th on Thursday, Echo Logistics, which is, they haven't signed the paperwork, but if they're coming in, it's a very good sign. Another company for the internships. They're going to be coming in at 10 a.m. to do their presentation. Same thing, ask a ton of questions. Have you had interns before? Talk about your veteran hiring initiatives. Like, what will I be doing? You're interviewing them as much as they're kind of getting a feeler out for you. We'll have our final Beyond Tech that day. Actually, no, second to last Beyond Tech that day of job searching for people who hate job searching, and how to search for a job post Code Platoon. Let's say you don't get an offer from an internship company. You don't get an offer after you finish your internship. How do you deal with that? And then we'll have our final retro on that day as well. I think the morning that day is just actually going to be all of this. I'm going to move the hours. Probably 9 to 10, I'll do a Beyond Tech. 10 to 11, we'll do the Echo Logistics thing. And then 11 to whenever, we'll do the final retro. So yeah, that'll happen on that day. And then on Friday, I'll give you some more details as the week goes on. But we're going to meet at Pivotal Labs at 10 a.m. And you're going to be out of there from the 30th until the 9th. So starting Friday, we'll be at Pivotal Labs. And then for remote students, I think your last day will be on this particular day. So we're going to go Pivotal Labs 10 a.m. on Friday. All of this week, you're going to have to come back for 5:30 for career prep. We're bringing in some more speakers for that. And then all the way until this Monday. So you'll be here until Monday the 9th. We'll be out of Code Platoon here, and then on this day we'll be at Google. So really, it's based on what I can see, because there's just so much stuff to go through on the 29th. I think my last day of teaching, more or less, is going to be Wednesday. So that's there's quite a bit of stuff to get through between now and then. So we'll do new site 5, new site 6, and we'll do 1 day of Redux, React Redux, and then that'll be it for us. So it's pretty exciting getting to the end. And then you have interview week, the week after the demo day and graduation at Google. If you want to come out to the new students reception, it'll be on the 26th, April 26th. We're still figuring out where we're going to have it. And then if you want to hang out for Foxtrot, actually, you know what? Actually, I take that back. One or two of you will come in on the Tuesday, May 1st, or Wednesday, May 2nd, just to talk with the Foxtrot folks. Because do you remember your first or second day, a few guys from Delta came in and talked about like everything when you all were young and fresh and eyes wide open kind of thing. All right. Any questions on where we're going? Feel pretty good? All right. Let's get into it. All right. So I have cloned down new site number 4. I only, as of last night, I only saw raised branch. So I'm gonna take a look at. I'm gonna use raised branch as the kickoff point for new site number 5. So how I envisioned this morning going, I'm going to do new site number 5. We'll talk about new React concepts. We'll take a quick break. I'm going to go upstairs and print some stuff out for the Beyond Tech, and then we'll come back after like 15 minutes or something like that. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back. We'll do the Beyond Tech. All right, so I've installed everything. I'm going to start raise and the new site number 4. We just want to make sure that we have all the functionality we need, and then we can grab all that stuff and dump it into new site number 5. All right, so we have our React app. It's a new site. He's got this Bootstrap nav bar at the very top with all these different sections. If I click on each individual section, it should take me to an article list that relate just to this particular section. Same thing with world, national, and business. Everything seems to go well, and this new site takes me back to the home page. He's got a Jumbotron article teaser here. If I click on any sort of article teaser link, it'll take me to the actual article. It's rendering correctly. And then we have a search bar. The search bar has the functionality to basically read through all of make an API call to the backend, grab all the articles, and then filter them based off of your changes. So if I type in, I don't know, Taiwan over here, TAI, it'll kind of keep narrowing it down until we match something that gets to here. If I just type in a bunch of Z's, let's try this one more time. Z. As long as there's something with a Z in here, it'll I guess it'll show up. So there's Brazil, Shinzo Abe, New Zealand. So as long as there's something that matches, it'll work. I think this looks pretty good to me. There's a few small little bugs, like when I type in ZZZ and I delete, it doesn't go out. So we can also figure that one out too. We'll try. We'll put that together in new site number 5. So for now, I would say it looks pretty successful. Let's go back over here, kill this server, and then start moving some things over. So I have new site number 4. And to get new site 5 started, I'm just going to grab the entire source folder and dump it in here. I'm going to run npm install on new site number 5, and as that's running for the next 20 minutes, cd new site. So as that's running, I want to review a few HTTP methods, both for the challenge that we're going to go over today, and the fact that you're going to be asked this on interviews. So what does HTTP stand for? Let's just get that started.
think it's Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Okay, what does that mean?
It's the transfer of getting and receiving hypertext. I don't know.
Sure. All right. So HTTP does stand for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and basically what it is, it's the protocol that you send and receive data over the internet. That's about it. So it's the protocol to send, receive data, or data for hypertext over the internet. Now, there are a few big methods that you're going to need to know. What are the big 4 to 5 HTTP methods?
Get,
post, put, patch, and delete.
delete.
All right. What do each one of these things do? What does a get request do?
Requesting information or data
From
the server.
okay. What's the difference between a client and server? Let's just get all of this out here so we just have all of our cheat sheet. Client and server. The client.
Client is the user.
User, machine making a request. And then the server is usually the machine that listens for requests, gives the response. So in everyday situations, like I talk to Danny, I'm the client. Like I'm the one who initiates the conversation. Danny's the server. He hears my request. Good morning, Danny. How was your weekend? All right. So I'm the client. I'm making a request. Danny's the server who hears it, and he's going to give me some sort of response. You know, I was shooting a sniper rifle this week. I thought that was really cool. I'd like to hear more about that in just a bit. So a GET request to get started is just basically client requests some data from the server. So you just want to get something back. What's a post? What's a post request? The difference. So a GET request, the client's asking for some sort of data. I'm asking you to get me something. There's that GET. The post is something different. Yep. Client is sending information to the server, usually to create a new record. Okay. And put and patch is slightly different from post.
But it's just that you're updating information.
Yep. Same thing. I'm still sending information, usually to update an existing record. And delete is easy. Client is sending a request to delete something. All right, so we've npm installed it. Wow, that amount of time we got to cover everything I wanted to cover. So these are all the things that we need to know. Like they're going to ask you about this quite often. They're going to ask you about what's the HTTP, what's the request and response cycle look like, what are the big methods, and they're also going to ask you about the status codes. So I have 200, 300, 400, and generally they also have 100s in there, but not many people worry about them as much as these others. So 200 status codes, anything starting with a 2 means. Okay. 300 is correct. 400. Something you did was incorrect. All right. And then 500? Yep. So something happened. Something you did, which is the client, is incorrect. Something on the server is broken. So at a very high level, this is what you're going to need to absolutely know and memorize and be able to just recite it off the top of your head when people do ask you this. All right. So up to this point, we've been kind of making, we're familiar with the fetch method for JS. So it looks a little something like this. So I have a fetch request, which is similar to Ajax. It's saying in the background, I'm going to be making this response. Instead of doing Ajax, which has the Christmas tree of doom that's slanted sideways, I can read this from top to bottom. So I have fetch. I'm making a fetch request, which which means I'm most likely making a GET request to this particular URL. Then I'm going to get a response back. I'm going to turn that response into JSON. That's this then line 19. There's also an issue with like what happens if something blows up. Remember we had, when you were doing Ajax, you had success and failure. So it looked a little something like .ajax, some URL. And then it was like success was one thing, and then failure was another thing. So it's a similar concept what's going on right here. So I'm making a fetch request to this particular URL. If it's good, then I'm going to take that response, turn it into JSON. Maybe I'll do something with it. If something blows up, I'm going to catch that error, and then I'm going to just console log it out. As of right now, I can actually just jump into my browser right over here. Jump to a JavaScript console here on the left, here on the right. Maybe console. Ooh, that's no good. Let's take a look at what's going on over here. So I do get a response back on something here. Any idea of what's going on? I expect to make a request here. So I'm returned a promise, which means that it acknowledged it. But I just want to console log what the actual response was. Am I missing something? Looks good. It's obviously not good because I'm not getting anything back.
You have to put a return.
Do I have to put a return? Let's find out. Let's get rid of this console log for now. Unexpected token return. They're unhappy with the return. I think there's an implicit return with this with the fat arrow function here.
What if put a return before the fetch?
Legal return statement. Okay. Let's take a look. Fetch request JavaScript. Let's take a look at what their thing looks like and then why ours is not working. All right, let's take a look right what they've got. All right, so I'm making a fetch request similar to what we've got here. Then I'm going to take the response and return the response as JSON. Isn't that the exact same thing that we have here? Except that they have the old school version. Oh, that's what it is. Gotcha. Go back over here. Let's put. Looks like I have to turn it into JSON, and then I need to console log it. So, and I think then I have to do then JSON console log JSON. I think that should do it. Let's find out if this works. All right, so it looks like that's what it was. So the first things first, I made a GET request, a fetch request to HTTPS this particular URL. I got a response back, and I turned that response into JSON. And then using that JSON, I just console logged it out onto the screen. If any error happens, I'm just going to console log the error. So you can see that when you make the first fetch request to this particular URL, you're given a promise. Similarly, it's just saying, I acknowledge that you sent me something. I acknowledge that you've done something. I promise that I will resolve this in the future when you tell me what to do. And then finally it resolves, and then it puts things out over here.
Why are you on your second line? Why is it confuses me why it's that then? Why it's JSON not response? It doesn't know that because you're turning the response into JSON. So that now when you're doing that then JSON, does it know?
Well, let's just console log what response is. Get rid of this line altogether. So I make a request, and I get a response back, and I'm console logging the entire response back. Now, if I take a look over here, the entire response that I get back, I have this is the URL it came from, this is the status code, and all of the headers and everything that goes inside of it. I want to turn the response that I get back into JSON. So let's just console log this. Let's say a equals underscore. Actually, I can't grab this. I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the question.
How does it know that you're turning? So when you do response.json, you're returning the response into JSON.
Let's take a look at what .json does. .json JavaScript. Here it is. Get to it here. All right, so it looks like the JSON method takes the body of a response and reads it and turns it into a JSON object. So inside of here, there is a body somewhere here. It's turned us into a readable stream, and then I have to kind of go through here to kind of find it. But essentially, this response has a body. And what happens when you do response.json is it takes this response object, finds the body, and then just turns it into JSON. That's all it does. Somewhere on this response, there's a body. That body is listed out as a hash. When I do .json, it just turns into a JSON object, which similarly also looks like a hash.
So then when you do .json, it knows you're referring to that response that you turned into JSON.
Yep. So you can think of fetch requests as reading top to bottom. First line here, I'm making a request to this particular URL. Then a response will come back. I'm going to take that response and turn it into JSON. Then, after I do that, I'm saving this thing over here, this response.json, as the variable JSON. I can just as easily turn it to anything else. I'm just console logging it out. If I were to make a request to not a thing, it's going to hit this catch error and then console log the error out. So I'm going to go to any website.com. It's making a fetch request, but there's an error. So it catches the error and then just console logs it out. So it says just type error, failed to fetch. That was the issue that came about. So coming back over here, we see that this is a GET request using fetch. More popularly, using fetch, you can get stuff. Using get fetch, you can also post things as well. So let's take a look at this particular bit of code. Let me open up a new file real quick, turn this into JavaScript. So I have this first line. I created a constant called article object with all the things that I need. I need a title, a byline, and an abstract for the articles that you see over here. It's a title, a byline, and an abstract. So the difference between these two particular things, the first one is get, and the second one is a post. There's a few large differences. So the post request over here includes a header, a method, and a body. And if you take a look over here on the get request, you don't really need to provide any of those things. So let's break that down. The headers basically contains some information basically that the server needs to know in order to know what type of request is coming in. So it's basically saying, if you've ever had to ship out something at the postal service, they always ask you, is there anything hazardous inside of here? Is there lithium-ion batteries? So I know how to handle this particular type of package. Similarly, when I'm saying I'm going to make a request to this particular URL in the background, this is the type of content that's coming through. The type of content I'm sending you is JSON. The method basically says, if it's not a get, I have to specify which one it is. So it's either going to be that post, a put, patch, or delete over here. And then whenever you send over a body, I have to stringify the request to make it basically a string so that they know it's coming in as a string. It's a JSON string. And then I'm going to parse it out on their end. So this is the small little bit of difference. So I created an article object. I'm making a fetch request with these headers, method, and body. And then based off of that, I'm going to get a response. That response I'm going to turn into JSON. I'm going to console log it out. So if you take a look at this particular, at news site number 5, which is running right now, you can see the last one is an article about Trump and the One China policy. If I grab this and I fire it off inside the browser, I made a request to localhost 3001/API/articles. I got a promise as a return, and then it finally resolved itself. You can see at the bottom it's not updated right now, but when I refresh the page, you can see that test shows up at the bottom. That was this random article that I just wrote. And you can kind of see the byline is going to be byline test, and the abstract is going to be ASDF. Test, byline test, and ASDF. So I'm able to post directly to the URL using a fetch request. Let's say I forgot something. Let's say I forgot, it needs a title, a byline, and an abstract. Let's say if I got rid of the article title and I tried to make a request now, you can see the last one is test on the page. Clear this out. I make the request, it blows up. It doesn't, I'm missing something. Let's take a look at what the error that's returned is. So the error, it says status code of 422. We said that 400 status codes are all bad. It says I have a validation error. The message is the article instance is not valid. You can't miss title. And that makes sense because if you see over here, I have byline and abstract, but I got rid of the title altogether. So that's our starting point for today on news site number 5. Let's talk about news site 5 and we'll finish it real quick. So today's news site 5, we have all of the previous things from before. We have the full page of articles. We can click on each one, go to each individual article component page. We can click on the section and we end up at a section page over here. I want to actually add something that will, one, I want to add an API method that will help me post directly to the API. And then 2, I want to have a probably just like a little link that says add article or something like that. And then finally, just a text box for today that'll stub out more or less a login page.
So doesn't React kind of have a database then in the form of JSON?
So I think so the question was, does React have a database in the form of JSON? And let me, it's here for now. I think one of these packages is actually has a database running in the background. Where did it go? I think somewhere on this API there is a database of some sort. Maybe if we look for Trump in here, sample articles yeah, I mean, it looks like all of them are saved and all the sample articles are saved over here. This is not technically, yeah, it's just writing to and from a file. So it's not an actual database. It acts as a database, but it is essentially just a file.
Not optimal.
It's not optimal, yeah. And you can totally read and write things from a file, but you can't query things quite as easily as if you had SQL. So it looks like this particular file called under API, there's a server, and then there's a boot sample articles.json. This is set up so that it's acting like a database. So first things first, let's create a little link. So where do I get started? I want a little link somewhere on this nav bar that basically says I want to add an article somewhere. So what, again, every single page you can think of if you're doing a React app is a page of different components. So I have many different components on this page. This is the one I want to add this add article to. So what is this particular component called? Which file do I go to first? It's app nav, but my first entry point is app.js. You can kind of see app.js is the full page. And right off the top, there's a, looks like I have a bunch of, I have a nav bar with a bunch of app navs over here. I just want to add a, like a quick link on here. I think I can actually just do another link to here. Link to add article. Close this off and just do add an article. I don't really necessarily need to add it to AppNav. I just see it. It's on the main entry point is app.js, and then there's a nav bar component at the very, very top. I go back over here, and I see add an article. It looks terrible, so I'm not really pleased with that. You can kind of see. I can probably just.
You add it to sections too.
What's that?
If you go into sections and add it there.
I could. That's a little bit more work than I want to do, though. Like it's like I can just add one line and it's all finished. Or I can, add it up here. Let's see. Let's take a look at AppNav real quick. The reason I'm looking over here is like I don't like this link because it doesn't match up at all. So maybe it doesn't need to go inside of app.js. Maybe I can remove this here and throw it inside of AppNav. It looks like this is it looks like it's all styled because it's under this thing right over here. Could I just put this here? And then it's under the same style. Yeah. All right, it's still here. I'm not really terribly pleased with it. What is the difference between my link to here and the nav items?
Surrounded with list item?
Yep, it's just surrounded with a list. You can kind of see I have an unordered list class that's the parent of this particular list. I'm going to close it off, refresh this page. You can kind of see it matches up a little bit better now. Maybe I'll make this all caps, and then it'll look almost identical. Add an article. All right, so it looks pretty good. When I click on this, it doesn't send me anything. It doesn't actually take me anywhere. What's my next step that I need to take? Yep. So as of right now, you can kind of see this one is taking me to /add article, but inside this router over here, it's not, there's no route that takes me there. Similarly, if you went to configs route.rb inside of Rails, if there's no route, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to just take this here, change this to /add article, and create a new component called add article page. At this particular point, I have to create a page called new add article page, add article page.js. Probably have to import this because it doesn't know where that's from. And let's just get something on the page here. So I'm just going to grab all of this, throw this here. I probably don't need these two. I will need a state of some sort, most likely. I can get rid of this. And I just want to see something show up on the page. We're all about small wins here. I have a completely empty add article page with a constructor with nothing inside the state, and I'm just rendering hi out to the screen.
Also, I'll change export.
Good catch. I have the class here, and in order for other files to use it, I also have to export it as something different. Do you remember back in the first few days of class when I was able to see something like that and you weren't able to see it, and now I missed it and Raymond caught it? That's how you know that you guys are going to be fine.
Just written.
What's that?
Just written.
If he didn't catch it, you would have caught it on the next one when you saw the error message. But if we go back over here, it says hi, and it looks pretty good. All right. The next thing I want to do is basically create a form for myself. I've created I can click on opinion, world, national, business, and add article, and it just takes me to this word that says hi. Now I want to create a little bit of a thing that says maybe maybe I'll have an H1 here. Create a new article. And then I want to have a form underneath here. So as of right now, when I refresh this page, it'll say in great big letters, create a new article. And then I'll have a small little form underneath. Now, inside of new site number 5, it says maybe we want to use a Bootstrap Form to make it look a little bit nicer. Do you want to do that, or do you want to just use a regular form? Your call. Like, both will work. If I just have a regular unstyled form from HTML, or I can use a nice looking form kind of like this. I can pick and choose different things that I need. Great, we're going to use Bootstrap. All right. All right, so I'm not a Bootstrap expert, but I know just how to kind of look through documentation. So I visited this particular site, all the things related around component forms. We can just kind of see what we need. It looks like for our forms, we need a title, an abstract, and a byline. So let's create 3 different text fields for the title, abstract, and the byline, and then a submit button. So let's just get this form on the page. I'm just going to copy and paste. All right, I'm going to fix up some of the spacing here. And it looks like I need form group control. Actually, I don't need all this control stuff. Let's go further down the page to find something. Okay, it looks like I just have this text, email address, and password. Looks like I just need this particular bit of text. Looks like I just need a form control label and a field group. Remy, what did you use? I saw that you did this one.
I didn't see the field group there, so I didn't use it.
Okay.
I just used form control and control label.
Form control and control label. All right. Okay, that should be pretty simple. Let's take a look at form control, and we'll just look up control label React Bootstrap. All right, so it looks like the form control component renders a form control with Bootstrap styling. And a control label. Sure, accessibility, use control. So it looks like control label just sets the label, and then the form control just is the text field underneath it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So looks like I'm just going to have a form here with a control label and a form control right underneath it. So I can get rid of this whole block here. Okay. We'll call this control label. We'll have this title. It can be a text. The value is going to be this.state.value. I don't think that to be true. Placeholder is enter title, then on change. Let's just see what we get for this. Let's just see if this shows up on the page for now. So it says control label is not defined and form control is not defined. Yep, I got to import it from React Bootstrap. Control label and form control from React Bootstrap. Let's just see this show up on the page. Did I mess something up? Oh, let's save this and refresh. All right, so I have something showing up on the page. Anything? Some issues? Let's take a look.
looks like it's there.
Oh, it's there now. Okay, it just took a little while. So I have a title. It looks like I can get that on the page. And maybe I'll just add a few more control labels and a few more of these form controls. So I have a byline over here. And then I have a abstract. So now I have a form with 3 different things on there. I have a title, a byline, and an abstract. So I can fill all of this out. I still need a submit button at the very bottom. So maybe, is there a button of some sort on here? Button? Oh, it looks like there's just a submit button that I can just use here. I've got a form. I've got 3 things inside of it, a title, byline, and abstract, and then I have a button to submit it. Because this is styled in Bootstrap, I have to bring it in from React Bootstrap as well. You can kind of see when I refresh the page here, I have that final little submit button here on the bottom. Now, I know that because I'm using React in some way, I need some sort of event handler. So onForm has something called onSubmit. So basically what happens is I'm going to fill out your form. When I submit it, I'm going to do something. So I'll just do this to refer to the entire class. I'll just call it handle submit. I know I'm probably going to need to bind this to it for now. And for now, I'll just have a handle submit. I'm going to take in an event. And we'll just console log event just to see something happen. Of ABC, DEF, anything, submit. When I submit it, it's actually redirecting me because a form by default posts somewhere and then it takes me to another page. So I'm actually not able to see what I want to see. How do I stop this submit button from actually going all the way through? Yep, that default. So by default, when I submit a form, it's going to take me somewhere else, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to stop doing everything at first, and then I want just to console log this particular event out. If I just do any text here and I hit submit, it is still redirecting me, which I don't really appreciate. Just go here for now. Right. I think it was because it was on the wrong URL. So I've got this event that's happened is a giant proxy, and you can kind of go through all of this tree here, but it's fairly difficult to go through. How do I get the value of a form? It was like event.something.something. Yep. So let's try event.target. Event.target value. Let's just see what we get here. So we'll refresh the page. We're just going to type in a bunch of different letters. I get an undefined. Event.target.value works when you have only one thing. So when you have multiple things like this form right over here, you can actually do .elements. Let's just see what our elements are. So there's more than one thing. We'll refresh this page. A, B, C. You can see it says cannot read property elements of undefined.
I think you got to switch value and elements.
Correct. We'll try it one more time. Good catch. A, B, and C. And it says, okay, it looks like now we have, again, when you submit anything on a form, it gets saved as an event because it's an on change. So an event happens, and we capture that entire event. We prevent the default from happening, so when I hit submit, it doesn't take me anywhere that I don't need it to go. I'm just going to console log event.target.elements. It's usually event.target.value when it's one thing, but when there's more than one, you have to do elements. Let's just grab the first one. And then from there, we can grab the value of it. So if all goes well, I'm going to refresh this page. 1, 2, 3. Hit submit, and I can grab 1. With that same line of logic, I can also grab the first element and the second one. So I have the title, the byline, and the abstract over here. So we'll try that by just typing in some random title, some random abstract, and a random byline. So random title, random byline, random abstract. And then just like that, I can capture the first, second, and third thing. All right. So when I submit this form, I have all 3 things, and I need to basically make it so I can make a request to the articles API. So when I jump over here, you can see right now I only have the ability to just fetch, like to search for things to make GET requests, but instead I need to have a new thing called, maybe I'll call this add article. And maybe it'll take in an article object. And then I'm going to use that code that I have over here to basically, maybe I'll take this bit of code and just figure out what to do with it. So it looks like I'm going to make a fetch request to 3001/API/articles. I'm telling it what type of headers I'm coding through. It's going to be a post. I'm going to stringify the article object that I pass in, and then it's going to take the response, turn it into JSON, and console log the JSON back out. Actually, I don't even think I need this response.json. Maybe I do. Maybe I'll just do this for now. I've added the article right over here. Do I even need to do anything with this? I don't think so. Just that. So since I've created a new add article method, I also need to export that same one down over here. So now I have the ability to add an article outside of this particular class. Using that, I'm going to go back to my add article page, make this into a giant article object, and then pass it into this article API. So it prevented the default. I'm going to maybe make a const called article object. I'm just going to do title is this first one. I believe the byline is the second thing, and then the abstract is the third. Let's change the values of 0, 1, 2. Make a request out to the API. In order to do that, I need to bring in the API over here and import articles API from, and I need to go from pages over to articles API. So I need to go out 1 level, it takes me to pages, and I go into API, and articles API.js. I believe it's just as simple as just doing articles API dot add article with, I think that'll do it. We'll find out. So if I go over here, you can kind of see the last article here is that test one that I talked about a little bit earlier. If I just do some random title by some random person, abstract 1, 2, 3, submit. I don't have any feedback right now, but if all goes well, I can refresh this page. If I look at the bottom, some random title was created on this particular day at this particular time. It's by some random person, and the abstract is listed right over here. Now, what are some things that you might want to fix right off the bat?
You want to have some type of redirect,
yeah,
and some type of success or failure based on something.
Cool. That sounds good to me, because as of right now, I'm just hitting this and I'm not getting any sort of feedback. That's not the greatest type of thing. So I guess let's break down what you just said. So you said one is I want to redirect when it's finished. All right. So when I hit submit, I want to redirect to maybe the home page or something like that. How do I do that?
I think think the browser router has its own redirect.
Okay, so what do I need to do?
Gotta import it. I forgot from where though. I think it's React Dom.
Okay, let's take a look. React redirect after form submit. Looks like other people have looked this one up. React router v4 redirect after form submission. Looks like they just have a redirect from React router. So I'll just grab that, throw it in my place here. I'm going to throw this up top because I like to keep all my libraries, my external libraries, and then I like to have my internal files underneath. All right, it looks like, so I'm using the redirect library. So as long as I can find redirect, so it looks like, let's read through this. So I have a contact form which extends from component, so it inherits from component. It doesn't take any props. Fire redirect is false right when you start. So after you submit it, it's going to fire the redirect to true. Okay, so maybe we'll try that. We'll have a fire redirect to false to get us started. After we do this, we're going to do this.setState equals, let's see, I forgot the syntax for it. Let's just grab this. So right off the bat, when the add article page comes off, there's a key called fire redirect on the state that's automatically set to false. After I submit it, I'm going to fire redirect to true. After all is finished here, within the same div, I'm just going to throw this here. And I'll make this one line. So remember, inside of your return, inside of your div, you can't do if-else logic, which means you can only do these like comparison operators. So fire redirect is not going to fire off the first time that this page renders because it's set to false. And if you're unhappy and your date's happy, your date is overall unhappy. The next time, though, after I submit this, it sets the state to true, which re-renders the page. At this particular point, this evaluates to true, and then we're going to redirect them to the slash. If all goes well, I can see this happen. Okay, it says fire redirect is not defined. Oh, this.state.fire redirect. This.state.fire redirect. Right, so at the very beginning, set of fire redirect is not true. So I'm going to do anything, submit, and then it redirects me, and then you can see this down at the bottom. Now, the second thing that Raymond said is I want some sort of flash notification that says like, good to go, you've added your thing. I don't want to scroll all the way down to the bottom to see this. How would you go about doing that?
You could check the responses status.
Okay. I can check the responses status. So maybe I can do the response equal this, and we can just console log the response for now. And we can comment this out because I don't want to fire it off quite yet. An article, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. A response that comes back and it says undefined. So as of right now, I'm just making a fetch request, but I'm not actually returning anything. So maybe I'll create a .then. I'm going to get a response back. I'm going to just do response.json and see what we get. Forgot a fat arrow. Two, 3, 3, 2, 1, 4, 5, 6, submit. Take a look over here. You can kind of see I still have an undefined. This is ridiculous. What's going on? will return. Refresh the page. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, anything, submit. I get a promise that comes back. Okay, I get the promise, but then I forgot to console log it out again. Have not what I'm expecting here. I probably won't go with that one. Let's just say, actually, why don't you tell me what to type on this one? So you said, well, based on the response that comes back from the API, there's going to be a status code. If it's 200, I can set a flash message and shove it on the screen. How do I guess, how do I do that?
You do a dot then.
Someone saying something?
Yeah, I was saying you could do a dot then, or you can do an alert message.
True. Where does the dot then go? Does it go here, or does it go over here?
It's going to go into the fetch request.
Inside the fetch request. All right. I do have a bunch of dot thens here. So I have a response and returning that out to the screen. So I don't think it's going to go here. I believe it's going to go on this part right here. I'm going to add the article to the page. Raymond, I'm using your thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to add the article using this API right over here. After that's resolved, because I'm not resolving it here, I'm just saying like make the post request and then don't do anything, I'm going to get a response back. Maybe we can just say let response equal this. Maybe? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, we'll just go with what we know. I'm just going to grab all of Raymond's stuff here. All right, so let's take a look at what Raymond wrote. So we have an article API. We add the article object, which we have right over here. We get a response back, and we're going to console log that response. Okay. If the response has a status of 200, meaning that it's a successful response, I'm going to alert you that says it's successfully submitted, and then it's going to set the state, and we'll get rid of this. We'll fire redirect to true. Otherwise, we're going to alert that you unsuccessfully submitted it. So let's see if this one works. I'm here. I'm going to refresh this page. Okay, it says articles API is defined but never used, and article API is not defined.
I think mine was singular on.
All right, so we'll have title, byline, and abstract. Submit. If all goes well, it says successfully submitted. It redirects me, and then you can see that title is down over here. What happens if I add an article and I forget something? So it makes a request that says unsuccessfully submitted. So it fails in the background, comes back to me, and I say, hey, something broke, and then you go back over here. The last part of today's thing is just creating a login page. I'm not going to go over that. You can follow the first few steps, which was 1, create a new page inside the route, create a new component, and then just have something that says login and log out that console logs the username and the password. So I hope this was slightly helpful. We talked about creating a new page, the React router. Once we got over here, we had state basically saying like whether or not we should fire off a redirect somewhere. We talked about the redirect from React router, which we use down here on line 61. And then we added a fetch request that's not doing a post, that's not doing a get anymore. We're actually doing a post. I'm gonna stop recording here. We'll take a break, and then we'll do a Beyond Tech at 10:20.